I'm going to be helping you decide if the iPhone 12 is worth your purchase 1 year after its release. Back in late 2020, this phone was released as a more mid-tier option for the average Joe who just wants a solid, reliable device, with nothing fancy, but has everything you need, like solid cameras, performance, and battery life. And so, how well has it held that title 1 year later? Let's find out, starting with the design. The iPhone 12 consists of your typical glass back, aluminium sides, camera bump, and notch display that Apple has been putting out for a few years at this point, although it was among the first iPhones since the 5S to have straight edges, instead of the curved sides we've seen since the iPhone 6, and at the time of release they definitely stirred up some controversy in terms of not just looks, but how they make the phone feel in the hand as well. This is very subjective, but in my personal opinion, they feel quite sharp and uncomfortable to hold compared to something like the iPhone 11, with the rounded edges, which just feels so much more natural, and the 6.1-inch screen size doesn't exactly help this matter, although the phone does weigh 164 grams, which is actually pretty light for a phone this size, so I guess the phone actually feels alright to hold, but it would be a lot more comfortable if it had rounded edges, and in my opinion at least, the rounded edges look much nicer too, although the straight edges do allow for a slightly smaller form factor, which means smaller bezels and a larger display area, and so the sacrifice of the comfort in the hand isn't all for nothing, although unfortunately, again, the display does still have that giant notch at the top, which by now is starting to head into ancient territory since basically every other phone maker has ditched it for designs like the hole punch camera. But while we're on the topic of the display, I guess this would be a good time to take a closer look at it. The iPhone 12 sports a 6.1-inch OLED panel with a resolution of 2532 by 1170, along with a pixel density of 460 pixels per inch. These specs are quite frankly fantastic, and all of your content and activities will look crispy and vibrant, with deep, rich blacks due to it being an OLED display. To put it simply, this panel is more than good enough for the average Joe, as well as a tech spec nerd. It also works well enough in outdoor environments too, as its peak brightness is 625 nits, according to Apple. The only quote-unquote drawback of this panel would be its 60Hz refresh rate, unlike on the iPhone 13 Pros and many Android competitors, where the screen refreshes at 120 times per second. This means that things like swiping around, scrolling, or gaming isn't going to feel as smooth or buttery as on a panel with 120Hz. In all honesty, I think that people greatly exaggerate and complain too much about the lack of 120Hz on here, because for the average person who this phone is marketed towards, it just isn't going to matter. In a nutshell though, the display on the iPhone 12 is pretty top notch, and anyone who doesn't care about the lack of 120Hz is going to be more than satisfied. Another thing that you're going to be more than satisfied with, regardless of whether you care about specs or not, is the iPhone 12's camera setup. The iPhone 12 sports 12 megapixel main, ultra-wide and selfie cameras, and just like you'd expect from an iPhone, they all perform amazingly. Now yes, the cameras on the new iPhone 13 series are going to be slightly better due to them being newer and having bigger lenses, but don't let anyone tell you that the iPhone 12 shooters aren't still top of the line. Shots are going to be vibrant and detailed, and with technologies like Deep Fusion, getting an impressive shot is going to happen pretty much every time. Outdoor environments with plenty of lighting will go hand in hand with these cameras, and even in low light situations, night mode saves the day with its incredible ability to brighten up pitch dark environments to the point where everything is nothing short of crystal clear. Although, since there's no telephoto lens on here for depth sensing, the portrait mode can have trouble around the edges of things, particularly hair and glasses, but for the most part, it'll get the job done just fine. Selfies on the iPhone 12 are just as good, and with portrait mode and night mode also being available on the front-facing camera, the experience doesn't diminish one bit. Moving on to video recording, the iPhone 12 still packs a huge punch, being able to record in 4K at up to 60 frames per second, and up to 30 frames per second in Dolby Vision, which is a format of HDR commonly used in the movie industry. This basically gives your videos extra dynamic range, as well as a much better color reproduction, and it more than definitely shows. iPhones have always been leagues ahead of the competition when it comes to video, and the iPhone 12 is a perfect example. In fact, a lot of my videos this year were actually shot with the iPhone 12 mini, which by the way has the exact same setup as the regular iPhone 12. So if you want to see the iPhone 12's camera capabilities a bit more in depth, then I'll link one of my videos that was shot with the iPhone 12 mini right up there. Now another area where the iPhone 12 thrashes 99% of its competition is in the performance. This phone is equipped with the Apple A14 chipset along with 4GB of RAM. Thanks to these assets, everything you do on the 12 will feel ridiculously snappy and buttery. Apps will open instantaneously, gameplay will be solidly smooth no matter how intensive it is, and literally anything you throw at the 12, it'll be able to handle like a champ, and will continue to do so for many years to come. So whether you're a power user or you just use your phone for day-to-day tasks, rest assured it's going to be a pleasant and speedy experience. Now, in addition to sporting blazing fast performance, the iPhone 12s were also the first of the iPhones to get 5G connectivity, which brings much faster internet speeds in comparison to 4G. With that in mind though, 5G isn't very common at the moment in most places, and you'll only really benefit benefit from it if you live in a place like a big city. So if you're thinking about getting the 12 for its 5G, you might want to hold off, since you'll be stuck on 4G 99% of the time. Now, battery life on the iPhone 12 still remains nothing less than solid after a year, as the phone packs a 2775 mAh cell, which might seem pretty small at first, but again, it is an iPhone, and due to Apple's top-notch software optimization for their ARM chipsets, killing this phone in a day isn't an easy mission, and for light users, you're looking at a few days of activity before you'll have to plug in. Now, the battery capacities on the iPhone 12s were actually slightly worse than the previous iPhone 11 series, but since it was such a subtle change, no one really raised any objections, and the bottom line is that it's incredibly solid and will last all day. And so, with my review now out of the way, is the iPhone 12 the one for you? Well, while there's no doubt whatsoever that this is an incredibly solid device no matter who you are, the value for money just isn't really there. It doesn't really make too much sense to buy the 12 when either the 13 or the 11 are miles ahead in terms of value for money. And the 12 is kind of like the awkward middle child in the current iPhone lineup. If you want great specs for a great price, you would be far better off spending a bit extra and stepping up to the iPhone 13 or 13 mini, since they pack many more camera features such as larger sensors and cinematic mode, as well as significantly better battery life. Oh, and the same goes for the 12 mini. It's actually even worse value than the 12 at this point. If you want a small phone, definitely go for the 13 mini. It's a huge dump in battery life. Now yes, the regular iPhone 13 does start at $1,350, but you're already paying $1,200 for the 12. Plus again, the 13 is just a much better deal and much better value for money. However, if you don't care at all about camera features or the best performance or specs, and you just want a solid phone that will last a long time, the iPhone 11 starts at $849, which is not only like $350 less, but the 11 is also a great phone too, sporting still terrific cameras, performance and battery life, although with the 11 you are missing out on the better display and admittedly 5G. Basically what I'm trying to say here is that if you just consider yourself the average non-techie individual, then the iPhone 11 is the one to go with, because you'll still be getting a great experience while saving some money in the process. But if you do want or need the bells and whistles of a sharper display, better performance and more capable cameras, then the iPhone 13 is the one for you. But if you're using a 12 at the moment, don't take what I've said as a reason to upgrade, because when the 12 came out, it was miles ahead in terms of value than it is today, because the iPhone 13 series hadn't been released yet, so it basically was one of the best iPhones you could get. Like I said before, the phone is incredibly solid, with top-notch cameras, display, performance and battery life. Everything I've said about it being bad value only applies to people who haven't bought one yet, and if you're currently using one, it will remain solid for you for many years to come. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful in any way, please make sure you drop me a like and subscribe to TechSpree for more reviews, insights and the occasional unboxing. Thanks a million for watching. This is Tom with TechSpree, and I'll see you as always next time.